Okay, so imagine this. It's 2026, and American generals aren't just watching missile silos anymore. They're watching semiconductor factories in Taiwan. A tiny chip, smaller than your fingernail, has somehow become as strategically important as an aircraft carrier. How did we get here? Back in the day, national security meant tanks on borders, warships in oceans, planes in the sky, physical, visible things you could point to on a map. But now, Washington is treating microchips, AI models, rare earth minerals, and even your home router as national security issues. Surprising, isn't it? Today, I want to walk you through exactly how and why America started treating chips, data, and minerals like territory. Because it's a massive deal. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll never look at your smartphone the same way again. Let's start with semiconductors. The chip is the new high ground. Semiconductors went from a trade product to the most fought-over strategic asset on the planet. October 2022. The U.S. government dropped what experts called the most sweeping export control since the Cold War, aimed squarely at China's chip sector. The rule said, American companies cannot sell advanced semiconductor manufacturing equipment to China. Cannot. Full stop. No exceptions for most cases. Why? Because the U.S. concluded that China's military-civil fusion strategy meant civilian chip companies were essentially arms of the military. Quick question for you. If a civilian company builds chips that guide missiles or train military AI, is that civilian technology or military technology? Washington decided the answer was both. And that changed everything. Suddenly, the chip factory became as strategic as the missile silo. By December 2024, the Commerce Department added 140 Chinese companies to the entity list. Chip fabs, equipment makers, investment firms, all blocked from American technology. The stated goal, impair China's ability to produce advanced semiconductors usable in next-generation weapon systems and AI with direct military applications. Then came something even bigger. January 2025, the Treasury Department's outbound investment rule kicked in. American money flowing to China's chip sector, now restricted. Think about that. It's not just blocking exports anymore. The U.S. is now telling its own investors, you cannot put your money into Chinese semiconductors. Feel the difference? January 2026, a Section 232 proclamation. That's a national security trade law normally used for steel and aluminum. Now applied to semiconductors and chip manufacturing equipment, the Commerce Secretary's investigation found America manufactures only about 10% of the chips it consumes. The other 90% comes from abroad. That's a vulnerability. So Trump signed it. A 25% tariff on certain advanced computing chips. NVIDIA H200, AMD MI325X. Unless they're being imported to build American tech infrastructure, there's a carve-out for U.S. data centers, startups, research, and government use. The tariff hits chips that don't actively strengthen the American tech supply chain. Broader tariffs on all semiconductors are coming next. Companies that build fabs in America would get a tariff offset, a discount on import duties. It's incentive architecture. The message from Washington is unmistakable. We want chip manufacturing back on American soil. Not just design, not just packaging, the actual fabrication. Here's something to think about. Taiwan makes over 60% of the world's most advanced chips. If conflict or a major disaster disrupted that, where would your phone's chip come from? That's the nightmare scenario Washington is hedging against. It's why TSMC is building fabs in Arizona right now, with billions in federal subsidies backing the project. Semiconductors. From trade commodity to national security asset. That's part one wrapped up. Ready for part two? Because this one gets very, very personal. The algorithm is the new arsenal. How AI, data, routers, cars, and robots became matters of national security. January 2025. The Commerce Department released the AI Diffusion framework. Doesn't sound alarming, but it fundamentally restructures how advanced AI technology moves around the world. The rule divided the world into tiers. Tier 1. Trusted allies like the UK, Japan, South Korea, almost no restrictions on advanced AI chips. They can buy freely. Tier 2. Most of the world. They can get chip, but with quantity limits, strict security requirements, and a prohibition on partnering with adversary nations. And Tier 3? China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, basically blocked from America's most advanced AI computing power. Remind you of anything from history? It's a lot like how America controlled nuclear technology after World War II. You can't just sell enriched uranium to anyone. Now advanced AI compute is getting similar treatment. The 2025 AI Action Plan was explicit. Advanced AI can synthesize battlefield intelligence in real time. It can lower the barrier to developing cyber weapons. It can guide autonomous drones. An AI model powerful enough for cutting-edge scientific research is also powerful enough to help design chemical weapons or plan large-scale cyber attacks. That's the dual-use dilemma. Now let's talk data. In 2025, the Justice Department finalized a rule. American companies and citizens cannot transfer bulk sensitive personal data to countries of concern. Period. What counts as sensitive? Health records, financial data, precise location history, biometric identifiers? Basically, everything your phone knows about you. Feeling it now? The fear is straightforward. Bulk American health records, financial data, and location histories in the hands of a foreign adversary is a surveillance and intelligence goldmine. Then there's connected vehicles. January 2025, a new rule. Cars with Chinese software or hardware are now considered potential national security threats. Yes, the car you drive, a connected car is functionally a sensor on wheels. It maps roads, captures surroundings, records sounds. If the software feeds that data back to a foreign adversary, that's an intelligence operation. You know how people freaked out about TikTok sending data to China? Now imagine your car doing that. On every road in America, every single day. How does that sound? March 2026. The FCC banned imports of new foreign-made consumer routers. The little box in your house connecting everything to the internet? Now officially a national security concern. The FCC cited Volt Typhoon, Flax Typhoon, and Salt Typhoon. Major cyber attacks where foreign-made routers were used as entry points to penetrate American critical infrastructure. If your router is compromised, your entire home network is compromised. And if millions of American home networks are compromised simultaneously, that becomes a weapon of mass disruption. And then, humanoid robots. Yes, really. March 2026. Bipartisan senators introduced the American Security Robotics Act to ban Chinese-made humanoid robots from government facilities. The argument: a humanoid robot in a government building could map the facility's layout, record conversations, and transmit everything back to China. A robot as a walking spy. AI, data, cars, routers, robots. The digital and physical worlds have merged. America's conclusion? Any layer of that stack controlled by an adversary is a national security threat. The mine is the new strait. How rare earths and critical minerals became the new strategic oil of the 21st century? April 2025. The White House ordered a Section 232 investigation into processed critical minerals and their derivative products. Let me translate that into plain English. The government asked, does America's dependence on imported rare earths, lithium, cobalt, and gallium threaten national security? Spoiler alert. The investigation said yes. Quick question. Do you know what's inside a fighter jet engine? Or a missile guidance system? Or a naval destroyer's radar? Rare earth elements. The same stuff in your phone. The January 2026 proclamation was blunt. Processed critical minerals are essential for jet engines, missile guidance, advanced computing, radar systems, and secure communications equipment. Here's the shocking number. As of 2024, America is 100% import dependent for 12 critical minerals, and over 50% dependent for 29 others. Read that again. 100% dependent, not mostly, completely. For materials going into your defense systems. If that supply gets cut, what happens to the military? Think about it. And where does much of that supply come from? China dominates the refining and separation steps, the choke point that turns raw ore into usable strategic materials. Here's the cruel irony. America is actually the second largest producer of mined rare earth ore in the world, but it lacks domestic capacity to refine and process that ore. So American rare earth ore gets shipped to China for refining, then imported back as finished materials. America outsourced the strategic choke point of its own supply chain. China knows this and has used it. In 2023 and 2024, Beijing imposed export restrictions on gallium and germanium, both critical for semiconductors as trade war leverage. You know how Middle East tensions spike oil prices and affect everyone? Now imagine that happening with the materials inside your phone, car, and power grid. Connecting the dots? February 2026. The State Department launched Forge, the Forum on Resource Geostrategic Engagement, with 54 countries. This is America building a mineral alliance to counter Chinese dominance. In a single day, the U.S. signed 11 new bilateral critical minerals agreements. Argentina, Morocco, Philippines, UAE, UK, and more. The goal? Break free from Chinese processing dominance. The U.S. government announced over $30 billion in financing for critical mineral projects over just 6 months. The largest strategic minerals push since World War II. So, chips, AI, data, routers, robots, minerals. The list keeps growing, but why? Why is America treating all of this as national security now? 3 reasons. Reason 1. Dual-use technology. The same chip that powers your laptop can train a military AI. The same AI model that recommends Netflix can analyze battlefield intelligence. The America First investment policy said it directly. Economic security is national security. If a rival controls the technology your economy runs on, they control your economy. Here's a thought experiment. If China cut off rare earth exports tomorrow, how long before American defense contractors start running short of critical components? Months, maybe weeks. Reason 2. The choke point problem. Modern power isn't about holding territory anymore, it's about holding the bottlenecks that everything else depends on. TSMC makes chips. ASML makes the machines that make those chips. A handful of rare earth refiners control the materials those machines need. Control the bottleneck, control everything downstream. Reason 3. The infiltration model has changed. You don't need spies and submarines anymore. A compromised router, a data-hungry app, a software update from an adversary. Those are the new vectors. Volt Typhoon, Salt Typhoon. These weren't missile attacks. They were cyber attacks using compromised network equipment to quietly sit inside American infrastructure. For years, China's military-civil fusion strategy explicitly requires civilian companies to support military and intelligence activities. That means any Chinese tech company could be a state intelligence instrument. When Washington calls a Chinese app or router a national security risk, they're applying that lens consistently. What do you think? Reasonable security posture or dangerous overreach? So where does this go? What does the next 5 to 10 years look like? Let me give you 4 signals that are worth watching very carefully. Signal 1. The security perimeter will keep expanding. We started with chips, moved to AI, data, routers, cars, robots, minerals. What's next? Undersea cables, biotech equipment, industrial software. The Iran war in early 2026 gave us a preview. Drone strikes hit Amazon's data centers in the UAE. Civilian tech infrastructure is now considered a legitimate military target. A data center is now a military target. If you run cloud services in a conflict zone, you are infrastructure. How does that change the calculus for tech companies expanding globally? Signal 2. This is not going back to free trade orthodoxy. Section 232 Semiconductor Tariffs, Outbound Investment Rules, Mineral Alliances. These are structural shifts, not temporary measures. Signal 3. Allies matter more than ever, but on America's terms. Forge, AI export tiers, critical minerals. MOUs all require partners to adopt American security standards. Signal 4. The costs are real and Americans will feel them. Banning foreign routers means fewer models, higher prices, possible shortages. Supply chain sovereignty isn't free. The White House AI Action Plan acknowledged the tension. How do you keep the tech ecosystem open enough to innovate while closing it enough to stay secure? Nobody has a clean answer. Here's the question I want you to sit with. Where does national security end and economic protectionism begin? Is there a meaningful line anymore, or has that line dissolved? At the Hill and Valley Forum in March 2026, White House officials described this moment as the battle for who sets the global rules for AI. The stakes, they said, are civilizational. So here's the thread connecting everything. Semiconductors, AI, data, minerals, routers, robots. They're all pieces of the same puzzle. Who controls the infrastructure of the modern world? America's answer is we do, and our trusted allies do. And if you're not in that network, you don't get access to the stack that makes the future run. The America First investment policy laid it out plainly. Economic security is national security. That sentence is now the organizing principle of American foreign policy. The next great power competition won't look like World War II. It'll look like server rooms, refinery contracts, chip fab subsidies, and decisions about data routing. That's a wrap for today. National security used to mean protecting borders. Now it means protecting the invisible infrastructure of the modern world. And that fight has already begun.